There are times in our journey where we face a true life threat, times when the threat will not go away, no matter what we do, how valiantly we hold on, or how bravely we continue to fight with all our might. Times when it begins to seem the more we battle, the quicker we sink, as if we were in quicksands. Times when the entire world walks out on you, including those who were supposed to stand by you. Times when after fighting with all you had for days, weeks, months, years, a decade sometimes, you eventually collapse. Times of unspeakable adversity and unbearable fear. This is what I'd like to address today. Those times when we finally collapsed, harmed and betrayed beyond comprehension, often by those we served and loved the most, abandoned by all, robbed of everything we had, and left to die. Times when the fear that consumes us becomes unbearable, when our brain ceases to function and we fear we have even lost our mind. Those times we call the dark night of the soul, when we come to believe that there is no path left ahead of us. I know your story. Your story is my story. I know it in my body, flesh, and bones, what it means to think your life is over and believe that there is no path left ahead of you. When you feel so deeply betrayed, so utterly alone in your despair. I have been there. And the fact that I'm still here today, sharing this message with you, is your proof that there is a way back from darkness to light. And that if I walked this path, so can you. And I'm here to show you the way and to tell you to stay strong. Because through the fire of great destruction, you will rise again, more vibrant, more alive, more authentic and true to yourself you have ever been before. And the path ahead will be more beautiful than it ever would have been if it were not for this excruciating transformation. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. I'm Genvièv, forensic and clinical hypnotherapist, board-certified instructor with the NGH, and emergency medicine first responder with the Wilderness Medicine Institute. I spent my life researching brain plasticity and brain rewiring in response to trauma, abuse, toxic stress, and extreme adversity to survive and thrive and develop formulas for success and wellness. So there are 3 stages of stress our bodies and central nervous system go into when we are faced with extreme threats. The first one is the alarm or panic mode. When we are faced with a traumatic event, an accident, pain, a threat, we enter the fight or flight response, which we've covered in our past episodes, where our body and mind are flooded with large amounts of adrenaline and cortisol. If the stress does not alleviate, we then go into the resistance mode, which is a high inflammatory state with continuous production of cortisol. Cortisol is initially an anti-inflammatory hormone. However, when it's produced continuously in response to sustained toxic stress, sustained threats, sustained trauma, it becomes very highly toxic. So we can either stay and oscillate between the alarm panic mode and the resistance mode for months and years sometimes, or eventually at some point we may collapse into the burnout mode, also known as nervous breakdown, depletion, exhaustion mode, when the body has lost its capacity to cope and to adapt. We go into physical, mental, and emotional breakdown with a total depletion of our energy. That sustained state of fatigue and exhaustion we experience, where very often we will not even be able to sleep. Insomnia and sleeplessness in spite of being completely exhausted. This is a state of burnout where we feel like giving up because we simply no longer have the ability to cope. We lost our drive, we lost our purpose, we lost our motivation, we feel listless, sometimes cynical and bitter, and that is a state of complete mineral depletion. So while we are in the fight or flight mode, we will not be able to shift gear and go into rest and digest until we have first addressed and calmed the central nervous system. It's a bit like if you were traveling in a Formula One car at 280 miles an hour down the circuit straight, and you would attempt to go into, or they don't even have reverse, but you would attempt to go into reverse gear, you would essentially blow up the engine. You cannot switch from fight or flight mode into rest and digest mode, the two different modes of the central nervous system, sympathetic and parasympathetic modes, unless you have first calmed your first central nervous system. Why? Number one, because the fight or flight mode is a subconscious survival instinct, and therefore it will always prevail and bypass over conscious cognitive functions. And number two is because your prefrontal cortex anyway, in a state of alarm, a state of panic, a state of fight or flight mode, is immediately down-regulated. That means your brain is not functioning anyway. You're probably feeling dissociated a lot of time, brain fog with severe memory deficiency, especially short-term memory. So you will not be able to process cognitive approaches efficiently anyway while in survival mode. So our number one action step is to calm the central nervous system. How do we do this? Well, of course, it starts always with education, understanding, becoming aware of the situation, recognizing and understanding your symptoms is the first step towards being able to identifying the correct approach to restoring your health, strength, safety, and wellness. And then there are immediate steps that we can take to calm your central nervous system. So immediately, of course, addressing the causes. Target and address and alleviate, if possible, the causes for the alarm, for the panic. Very often, however, there is a state of panic that is caused by situations that are not able to be resolved right away, that will take a while and time to resolve. So in that case, we need to address the secondary potential sources of stress and toxic stress, alleviate all secondary sources to give your central nervous system, your body and your mind, the maximum support while the essential first initial causes of stress is being addressed. Limit the other sources and restore your internal balance. And number three, taking action steps to nourish your body, your soul, and your spirit to give yourself the maximum potential for health restorative approach. So the number one approach that I want to talk about is biofeedback. And I spent the last year researching it with the clinical director of a trauma center, which proved to be absolutely incredibly beneficial. What we call biofeedback is essentially a diaphragmatic breathing approach, learning to breathe with your belly. I'm sure you've heard about that belly breathing. So with biofeedback, you're connected with your mental health practitioner, your doctors, your psychologist, to electrodes that are placed onto your ear and connected to a software computer system where you can see the direct correlation of learning to modulate your breath with deep belly breathing to the effect it has on your heartbeat, and you will find your heartbeat calming down immediately. So I'll give you the 3 steps to do that. Place a hand on your belly so that you can feel the rise and fall of your belly as you focus your attention and awareness on belly breathing. What you want to do is limit the movement and motions of your shoulders and upper chest. Most of us in day-to-day lives, under stress, we're taking the habit of breathing shallow with only the upper part of our lungs. What you want to do to calm your central nervous system is bring deep, full lung breathing habit to your body. And you do this by breathing with your belly. So placing a hand on your belly, inhaling deeply, and focusing on feeling your belly rise with the breath. No movements of the chest and shoulders if possible. Simply pushing the air down into your belly, expanding your belly with the breath, keeping it there for as long as you can, and then gently releasing and feeling your belly reduce with the release of the breath. Doing that for cycles as much as you possibly can. You can do that in bed at night with your hand over your belly. It'll help you fall asleep more conducively, more peacefully, sleep better through the night. So deep belly breathing in and out, training yourself. It may take a while, it may take some experimentation, training yourself in pushing the air down into your belly, and it'll instantly begin to calm your central nervous system. The second step is adding guided imagery to that modality of breathing with your belly. So you're going to bring in an emotion of love, whether it is somebody you simply adore or an animal that you love with all of your heart, and bringing the eyes, the image, the connection, the oneness with that person or animal to your mind as you breathe with your belly, imagining that emotion of love. And it can also be oneness with nature. It can be that activity that allows you to feel so immensely revitalized. For me, it's either skiing in winter months as I fly down summits, feeling as one with the mountain, with the snow, with the terrain, with the trees, with the oxygen, with the air, feeling the contact, the dance of my feet with the terrain, that sensation of energy oneness. It can also be deep sea diving because I'm a deep sea diver. Whatever it is that you feel, those of us who dive feel so in that state of trance and serenity and oneness with the liquid environment around us as we're at depth below the surface. If you have an activity that brings you that sensation of total trance and total ability to let go of anything and everything else and become one with what you're doing at that moment, then bring in that feeling, bring in that emotion, give it a color if a color comes to your mind, and allow that sensation of love or ecstasy or oneness or communion with nature to flush your heart. Imagine it cleanses your heart of anything and everything that is not of itself. So as you deep breathe with your belly, bring that feeling in and out with your breath, cleansing the internal sphere of your body like a temple of health, releasing toxic stress. And the third modality with this is extending that peace, that serenity, that osmosis, that sensation of wellness from the inside of you, your heart, your belly, your system, externally. So for me, I imagine extending it to you, my audience, my viewers, all of you who message me after my videos to share with me how much you appreciate and how much you benefit from this work. That brings me such joy. So as I extend that peaceful energy, I'm extending it to you, reaching towards you and sharing that energy with you. When you do it, share with those around you who you feel connected with, or even again, your animals, nature, your loved ones, sharing that peace and that serenity internally and externally. And when you're connected to electrodes, that simply gives you the ability to notice the difference it makes in your heartbeat immediately. So that's a magnificent technique to try if you have the opportunity with your mental health provider, with your trauma center. Bringing that imagery in and out and focusing on breathing with your belly. Now, other grounding methods and approaches will be connecting with nature, walking outside, breathing in the phytoton seed chemicals that are released by the trees and the plants that bring instant harmony to our brain. There are antidepressant chemicals, anti-anxiety chemicals, connecting, walking barefoot upon the earth, grounding yourself in that shamanic practice that we approached in the last videos, connecting with Mother Earth, connecting with the forest, connecting with peace and the serenity that you can find around you. Hypnotherapy that we practice in my center also allows us to calm our central nervous system immediately, rapidly, effortlessly, much more easily, by the way, than doing meditation, because there is no internal battle with hypnotherapy. It simply compares to watching a movie. You're being guided into a beautiful serenity. I can teach this to any one of you willing to learn that. I work a lot via Skype as well as in my center. My approach is educational, so we can do that at a distance. Yoga, meditation, also grounding technique. EFT, emotional freedom technique, one of the most proven beneficial approaches for war, post-traumatic stress, working with acupressure points in your body in a systematic manner to release anxiety, release stress, release tension in the body and in the central nervous system. And of course, aromatherapy with acupressure as well. Then we move into nourishment, tending to your body with hydration. Number one, a brain hydrated is a brain that functions better. We know that. There's been countless scientific studies done that demonstrate that students who test with water on their desk perform a full grade higher than those who test without water. So choosing mineral water, preferably, not necessarily bottled water, but mineral water, there is a difference there. Number two is sleep. Sleep is essential to calming your central nervous system, restoring your health, and restoring your strength. Long quality sleep every night. The hours before midnight are the most restorative hours. Sleeping in complete darkness, avoiding blinking, flashing lights or lit electronic devices. Uninterrupted sleep is a very important quality of the sleep that we need. Sleeping in silence for at least 8 hours, if possible, as often as possible, preferably every night. And preparing for sleep, which means slowing your metabolism down during the later part of the day and the evening by not engaging in hyperactivity, not engaging in high intensity cardiovascular workout before night, and not engaging in stressful behavior like video games or confrontational situations, preferably to be avoided before night. Preparing for sleep with warm, not hot, but warm bath, preferably with Epsom salts, of course, which will naturally replenish your magnesium levels, calm your mind, and prepare your body for deep sleep. Then, of course, nutrition. We are what we eat. So in order to address that central nervous system in the most calming way, we're going to need protein-rich intake, at least with every meal. That means 3 times a day, good sources of protein. For breakfast, for instance, you could choose a plant-based protein powder that you can blend into a smoothie with almond milk and a banana. So you're getting massive amounts here of potassium and magnesium. Calming minerals, especially magnesium and zinc, which will provide stimulatory support to your body, minerals and nutrients, and fuel for your nervous system to recover a productive state of functioning. Research shows that 80% of people are magnesium deficient. When you're under toxic stress, you're burning your supplies of magnesium at accelerated speed. If you have low energy, fatigue, insomnia, irritability, brain fog, muscle cramps, eye twitches, heart palpitations, depression, and anxiety, simply know that these are all signs of magnesium deficiency. If you want energy, you get magnesium. When you do not have energy, you are magnesium deficient. It's as simple as that. So talk to your licensed healthcare provider about that. And it's so much greater than that. Magnesium helps us dampen down cortisol and adrenaline. It supports our adrenal glands. In other words, it supports our ability to recover from trauma and come back to life. So I'm going to list symptoms of magnesium deficiency. Fatigue. physical and mental exhaustion and weakness, muscle twitches, contractions and cramps, numbness and tingling in our extremities, headaches, migraine headaches, mental dysfunctioning such as apathy, mental numbness, lack of emotion, depression, anxiety, nerve dysfunction, high blood pressure, cardiac arrhythmia, irregular heartbeat, heart palpitation, lightheadedness, shortness of breath, chest pain, fainting. In severe cases, arrhythmia may increase the risk for stroke or heart failure. Asthma. As the deficiency in magnesium progresses, we may experience personality changes, a drop in the calcium levels of our blood, a drop in the potassium levels in our blood, osteoporosis, seizures, abnormal heart rhythm, and coronary spasms. If you'd like to learn more about magnesium deficiency, study the work of Dr. Carolyn Dean. She's a medical doctor, a naturopath, a herbalist, and she wrote the book called The Magnesium Miracle. Sadly, when we do blood samples for magnesium, very often they will not correlate our magnesium deficiency simply because in most of the blood samples that we do, the blood that will be captured is the part of the blood that gathers maximum magnesium from the body in order to protect the heart. So we may be magnesium deficient and not show it in regular blood test. One of the good ways to see your magnesium deficiency is what is called an HTMA analysis, which stands for hair tissue mineral analysis, which allows us to determine which stage of magnesium deficiency and stress we're in based on our mineral levels. Dr. Rick Malta with the Malta Institute in Arizona can help you with those tests. So magnesium-rich food that you can have access to naturally and safely restore your magnesium levels. And again, always check with your physical doctors, your primary care physicians, your naturopath, your nutritionist, before you follow any of this advice. Here are good sources of magnesium-rich foods. Dark chocolate. So last week we saw that dark chocolate is a potent source for endorphins. This week we discover it is also very rich in magnesium, as well as iron, copper, manganese. It contains prebiotic fibers, which is essential for gut health, and is loaded with antioxidants, those nutrients that neutralize free radicals, which damage our cells and lead to disease. So it's also beneficial for heart health and contains flavonols, which further protects our cells and the lining of our arteries. Avocados are rich in both magnesium and potassium, as well as vitamin B and K, fibers, and healthy fat. They also reduce inflammation and improve cholesterol levels. Nuts, again, as we saw last week with endorphins, particularly almonds, cashew, and Brazil nuts. Additionally, they're also anti-inflammatory, good for our heart and our brain. Legumes, nutrient dense. We're talking here about lentils, black beans, peas, and chickpeas. Very rich in nutrients, including magnesium, potassium, iron, and a major source of protein as well as fibers. Leafy greens such as kale, spinach, collard greens, and turnip greens, as well as mustard greens, excellent source of several nutrients including iron, magnesium, manganese, and vitamin A, C, and K. They also protect our cells from damage and reduce risks for cancer. Seeds, especially flax seeds, pumpkin seeds, and chia seeds, contain high amounts of magnesiums. They're also rich in fiber, iron, monosaturated fat, and omega-3 fatty acids. They contain antioxidants which protect our cells from harmful free radicals. Fatty fish, especially salmon, mackerel, and halibut, incredibly nutritious, rich in omega-3 fatty acids and high in magnesium, as well as high-quality protein, potassium, selenium, B vitamins, and various other nutrients that protects us from disease, particularly heart disease. Bananas are known for their high potassium content. They also are high in magnesium. They provide vitamin C, B6, manganese, and fiber, as well as whole grains, especially oats, barley, buckwheat, and quinoa, high in protein and antioxidant as well, and also gluten-free. They reduce inflammation and protect us again from heart disease. Other sources of magnesium will be Epsom salts that we can use in soaks in our bath or in foot bath, magnesium oil as a massage oil, sea salt in our food and in our water, and of course magnesium supplements. So here again, consult with your physician with that. You want to make sure that it doesn't interact with anything that you are taking or your current condition. My favorite source of magnesium supplement is the French line called Oligosol, because it's liquid and it's served in little glass vials that you break and drop under your tongue, so it has immediate access to your bloodstream with no side effects. Here in the US, I like magnesium malate because it addresses muscles and energy primarily. So again, stay strong. Remember that we're in this together, and I'm here to assist you and support you in every way that I possibly can while you regain your strength and embark on the best part of your life. So if you haven't already done so, please subscribe, join our community. We're a community of thrivers that support one another. Share your stories, share your comments. It's important for all of us to know that we're in this together, and we stand stronger when we stand together. I look forward to seeing your comments, everyone. Feel free to comment under the video, like this video, share it, share the message, share the awareness with those you know who need it, and subscribe. And I look forward to seeing you in next week's video. Thank you for tuning in.